We're going to take a look at fingerprinting analysis and how effective it is as an evidence collecting tool, but also in supporting criminal cases and identifying the potential for accuracy in identifying persons involved in particular criminal situations or scenarios. So we're going to begin first by looking at the different types of fingerprints, the techniques, how fingerprints are collected, but also the specific characteristics to look for when examining fingerprinting. Now, fingerprinting analysis itself is a very old tool, I'd say, and in collecting evidence, it's something that's been around for quite some time. So in terms of historically, when you're looking at the history of it, it's been used for more than a century, but it's something that's very commonly used still today. It has a unique characteristic because of the conclusive evidence it can reveal. It is a very valuable tool, okay, very valuable. Among advanced technology, even for all of the techniques we see today with forensics, it's still one of the more accurate tools. DNA fingerprinting is more sophisticated and accurate than traditional fingerprinting, but we will today focus primarily on the traditional method. So when examining fingerprints, they're actually formed even from before birth. So in terms of when you actually have your own unique fingerprints, they're formed while you are still in the womb, with the exception of cuts that can actually permanently scar your fingerprints, even diseases which could cause that as well, but they remain unchanged with the exception of those changes. Your fingerprints remain unchanged until your body decomposes at death. Fingerprinting evidence is the most positive investigative means for identifying people. DNA blood analysis cannot differentiate between identical twins, but fingerprinting can, which is an interesting fact. Now, every fingerprint is unique. There are records of the raised surface of your skin. So this is the little bumps and ridges you feel. That's actually called friction skin. And they appear on the underside of a person's fingers. There are 3 types of fingerprints that exist at crime scenes. You will either see visible prints that are made from a finger stained with a colored material like ink, blood, or grease. There are plastic prints that get formed by pressing onto a soft surface like soap, clay, or wax. And then there's a latent print, which is an invisible print left on an object just by your body's natural greases and oils. And if you actually were to look down or look currently at the surfaces around you, you could probably see many latent prints. So if you're using your device, you probably see it on the surface of the screen of your device. But because it cannot be seen by naked eyes, fingerprinting powders and chemicals and even lasers are used to make them visible at crime scenes. So just taking a look at some of the more advanced methods of fingerprint analysis, you can see here it's almost as if the hand is being scanned by special computer devices. The certain pinpoints, attention drawn to the pinpoints on each fingertip, certain ridges and characteristics to look for. But what you would normally see is a print such as this one, lifted at the crime scene. Okay. And then we would see the fingerprint expert actually come in and examine all of the different ridges and points on the print to make a positive match. Now, in the past, this had been done with humans. Obviously, we were the ones determining where the ridges matched and what the likelihood is that this print is actually, in fact, this person. However, today with computers, a lot of these matches are done using computers. Dusting for fingerprints is the most widely used technique. First of all, because it's easy, and also because it's very low cost to do this. To dust for prints, really all you need is the brush and some kind of a powder, a tape of some form, and a fingerprint card, which is where you'd actually then preserve the print you've lifted. You could use any powder, really, so long as it's something that is, very fine, either black or light in color. Even silver would work. And the feather duster, you could really use any kind of duster, like a makeup brush, or brushes with natural hair tend to be the best, but fiberglass brushes are usually designed to do this. And all you would do is just lightly dust the surface and over the print with the powder. Using too much powder, though, isn't good, because if you dust too rough, it can actually ruin the integrity of the print. But all you'd need to do is carefully press the tape down. Even regular Scotch tape can be used to test this over the print, and so long as you don't trap any air bubbles under that tape or smear the print, you can lift the tape and seal the print by putting it on a fingerprint card or even a plain note card. Now, with more modern and advanced fingerprinting techniques, super glue fuming is another type of way to lift prints. It's a chemical reaction that's actually caused, and this was actually invented in Japan in the 1970s. So you would place the print in a small chamber where you'd conduct your experiment, where you'd conduct the actual lifting of the print. It could even be a homemade box, as long as it's got a high level of humidity, it would actually work better. And you would just put a small pool of super glue in the chamber, so like your typical crazy glue. And what you would end up having to do is heat it and actually put the glue onto a hot plate. So you'd heat it, and over time the vapors cling to the print, and the print can then be transferred to any surface. There's also gels that are used today as well to lift fingerprints from porous materials like cardboard, because lifting prints from paper is actually the most difficult. And they can be actually pressed against a print that's been dusted, almost acting like a glue and lifting the prints that way. And then they can also be preserved or recreated even. I use fingerprinting techniques in criminal investigations. There's quite a few reasons why. First of all, it's because it's unique. It's an individual characteristic. And because it's unique, prints aren't the same between individuals. So it's that uniqueness and individual characteristic that is fundamental. It also remains unchanged in an adult's lifetime. It doesn't change. Okay, and it's very good to know that when you have fingerprints on file, those won't be changed from one year to the next for individuals. And finally, just the general characteristics of the patterns and the different ridges. And you can see here, these are all different ridge patterns in this fingerprint here. These unique patterns can allow fingerprints to easily be classified. And the ridges, depending on how many there are in someone's fingerprint, they can be counted, and these special characteristics make the fingerprint specific, make it a specific identifying characteristic of every person. So when you have enough points that have matched, you can assume that a match is made, and so it's quite reliable in that respect. So in terms of the different types, you'll notice here we have different classifications based on their visual patterns. There's loops, whorls, and arches. And about 60% of the population has loops. And we have 35% of the population that has whorls, which aren't as common. And 5% of the population has arches, which are the least common type. These are the three major groups, and it's the difference in the patterns between the groups. So within these groups, if you just take a look at the next slide, you'll see the specific, more specific classifications. Okay. Now, every time you see this here, these are the core of each print. That's what they're actually called. Okay. And in the plain arch example, you'll notice there's almost as if there's no core. You have arches, lines that diverge together, and loops. Take a look at your prints. So, taking some ink on your finger, even just using a magic marker, you're going to do an imprint of your right hand index finger. And you're going to look at the pattern and identify which of your prints matches to the specific type of fingerprint. Is it going to be which of the 8 fingerprint patterns and classifications does your fingerprint more closely match? Try it, and we want to hear all about it tomorrow.